Can't wait to say hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Topical, Tech's best talking show. I think about it and it pumps me up. Like, Tech's best talking show, let's go. Yep. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Topical, Tech's best talking show. Today, we always have, of course, three big stories coming right at you. We're going to be talking about the Zoom boom. We're going to have Jack react to some things that happened over the weekend. I wonder what that could be. And then 2020 in review. We didn't review 2020 last year. What's the point of having a new year if we don't go over the old one? So we're going to go over all of those stories. But first, let's introduce our guests. You can wish upon him, but to do so, you'll need to make an API call. It's back-end web concentration student at Make School, Starlight Romero. Thank you for coming, Starlight. He's always the chillest guy in the room, but that's partly because of where he's from. It's back-end web concentration student at Make School and Minnesota native, Jeremiah Leary. Welcome, Jeremiah.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, our resident canal expert. It's back in web concentration. Are you back in web concentration student, Sala? Or are you data
That
science?
is correct.
Another back in web concentration students at Make School. It's Salo Cohen. Thank you all so much for coming on. I have to say, last week, everyone was talking about Tech Topical and how it is indeed the best tech talking show. And I think we have another best one yet coming right up for you. For our first story, we are talking about the Zoom boom. This time, 2 years ago, actually, Zoom's stock price was at around $55, and now it's around $300. It got up to $500, it went down to $300, so now it's at $300, a lot more than $50, and they're looking to sell some of that stock and raise $1.5 billion, which I don't know the math on that, but I think that's a lot of dollars. With the idea being that people are going to start returning to work soon, and they want to have some cash on hand to be able to deal with these sorts of changes. And for those of you who may not know how all this sort of works, when a company's stock goes up, that doesn't mean that their bank account goes up. It just means that the company is worth more money. So when the company wants to go ahead and raise more money, what they'll do is they'll sell more stock. However, companies don't like to sell stock because that's just going to dilute them. So they wait till it gets really high and wait till they really need money, and then they'll do a stock sale, which is exactly what Zoom is doing here. Salo, I got to ask you, is Zoom just overreacting here because they already have a bunch of cash on hand? Are we going back to work anytime soon, do you think?
Gee, that's a hard question. I'd hope to say yes. I'd hope to say that, yeah, sure, we're gonna go back to work really soon. But seeing as how the whole COVID thing's developing, I don't know if soon is the word. But then again, I don't know if Zoom is betting on soon. Perhaps they're betting on getting cash for later use, not such short term.
That could be the case. Jeremiah, how soon is soon? What do you think?
I mean, nobody can tell, right? Because soon was, 3 weeks into March last year when we were like, yep, couple weeks and we'll all be back on the grindstone. And here we are 9 months later. So, I don't think it's like a baseless cash grab by any means. I think they're maybe trying to raise some money so they can make a solution for when people do go back to work, they'll still be relevant and not everybody's remote type of thing. I think they might be going in that direction.
You're absolutely right. That's what they said. They said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, Starlight, and here we are a few years later. I have no problem with Zoom wanting to raise some money. Do you have a problem with that, Starlight?
No, I don't have a problem with that. I'd be interested to know what they're using the money for and to get a better map of how the money is being used. I think it could potentially be a smart move, but I also think Zoom has room to grow. And maybe they need this money to grow it in the way they need. Earlier, at the end of last year, they released end-to-end encryption for their videos, and they're planning on making improvements on that later this year to include more features. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, that does sound pretty exciting. I wonder how all that's going to turn out. And it's really kind of funny to me to think about when I see Zoom stock price, it's so high. and then I use Zoom. I mean, I love Zoom. I'm a big Zoomer. I can't get enough of it, and it's way better than Skype. So don't get me wrong. But when I use Zoom, it doesn't feel like a $1 billion app. Oh wait, before we even get started, did I mention that we're live on Twitch? Because we are. And if you are also live with us here on Twitch, you can make sure that you're chatting, and then we will get right to it. In fact, go ahead and put some stuff in the chat right now so that I know it's working. But anyway, I don't know, Salo, does it seem like what's the plan here for Zoom? People are going to go back to work at some point. If it's not next year, maybe 10 years. At some point, they're going back to work, Salo. What would it look like for Zoom to like iterate? Do you think that or is it all over for video conferencing? Is there no path there? What do you think?
My money is that WeWork came too soon. It was, too early for its time. And that Zoom's going to do something similar to WeWork, because if we see the new trend in all the big tech companies, right? They're going to tell people, guys, work from home. And then we can meet, every now and then in these centralized locations, but they're going to be spread out throughout the entire country. So in my point of view, the WeWork type of, system where people are just, they go to an office, they meet, and then they go back home and then use Zoom. That's really going to, drive forward. And if Zoom owns both things, if they own the sort of the system where people can see each other in person, but without needing to own the office, and they also own the virtual, Skype-like, or Zoom rather, then they're going to be able to make money off everything. And that's why I think they're going for a cash grab, to buy real estate.
I love that idea. So instead of WeWork, they can call it Z-Work. Now that's something that I think is, Jeremiah, would you ever do that co-working space? I've never seen one before, but it sounds interesting to me.
I haven't been a part of one, but I think, yeah, I mean, there's so many possibilities for Zoom right now. It's insane. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is like a support infrastructure, right? I mean, there's go to my PC, log me in for all these remote assistance tools. If they could get a nice, secure way to do that within an office, IT teams would be all over it.
Alicia Binsko in the chat says, even if we go back to offices, Starlight, even if we go back, Zoom will stay relevant, much better than traveling. Anonymous user, what Salo said, I don't think work from office will be fully mandated ever again for most companies. Starlight, did you hear about Twitter? They're fully remote now. Some more companies are thinking about going fully remote. Have we passed the tipping point on remote and in-person work? Have we all just decided that work from home is just, in person's nice, but boy, is it nice being home.
Yeah, I think there's going to be definitely a few hangers that are going to maybe want to go to work a few days a week. But I think work from home is the new dominant force in the industry. As far as getting something like real estate and a co-working space, I think that would be a smart move. Although it would, we'd have to wait and see how they do that in practice.
Yeah, I'm only about it if I get the same perks. Listen, one of the big things for me is I love perks. And one of the big, advantages of working at a Google or LinkedIn is you get like the free buffet, you get the scooters that drive you around the campus. And I'm worried about losing all of those perks by working at home. It's not the same thing if I make a buffet just for myself. So I don't know, Salo, as much as I do like working at home, I do think it would be nice to get back in are you starting to, well, you probably not you, because you're on the beach in Panama, you don't have anywhere to be, right? That's kind of a nice situation. But for some of us, maybe we'd prefer to go back to work. I don't know if we'll be getting used to this more often and just as the new normal, or if society will collectively start going a little bit crazy, wanting to get back out there, back into work. I don't know. What do you think, Sala?
I think that a new thing's going to come up, right? Again, a co-working place where you go mostly to socialize, because the one aspect that nobody really likes about work from home or study from home or anything from home is the lack of socialization. We human beings, we're social creatures. We need to interact with each other. And I mean, I do enjoy, again, the comfort of working from home. I do agree that there are perks from the office, but I think a hybrid is going to pop up, Like there are going to be offices that it's optional to go work, but if you want, you can stay home. Or, if you want, you can opt for one of these co-working places where you can just go do your own thing, like if you're at home, but you're going to be with other people. So, you're socializing. Because that's the one thing I think gets most people, it's the loneliness of working or studying or anything from home all the time. So I don't think 100% from home will be the norm, but I do think there will be a reduction in office space use.
Joy Code says, lol, Z work. I'm glad you caught that, Joy. Also, Joy, I feel like might know a little bit about WeWork. Joy says that Joy Codes, I miss the free food, and then a sad robot, it looks like. I know that feeling. Alicia Binsko, it's cheaper for companies to give a good bonus. Ha 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 ha. Alicia Binsko, cheaper to provide a food bonus than open the offices. That's right, Jeremiah. If I'm not getting perks, then I better be getting a few extra dollars. Don't you think?
I mean, I would agree to a point, but I mean, there's no doubt that the companies are saving money by, having these offices closed up, unless they're kind of still paying rent on it. But I mean, there's so many expenses that go into running a daily office structure. So, I mean, with that money they're saving, they could put it right back into the customers and, offer more to their employees and clients. And I think overall, everybody has a better experience. It's just we're missing out on what Salo said is that social interaction, which I think is more important than people give it credit for when, they first get that taste of working from home.
Joyco says the perk is getting a San Francisco salary and living somewhere cheaper. Starlight, is that what you're looking to do? Get yourself a San Francisco salary, and then maybe people are going to Texas, they're going to one of the Dakotas, maybe even Minnesota, although I hear it's quite cold. Is that what you're thinking about? I know you're an Oakland native, Starlight. I'm curious what you think about all this, being from the Bay Area, right? Oakland, I've been to California once. Oakland's in the Bay Area, I think, right?
I'm not a native, but I have lived here for a little bit. And I think as this remote thing becomes the new norm, I think companies are going to be enticed to other states, kind of like we've already seen. And I think that'll be good for the economy, or at least I would hope that companies would have that incentive to move elsewhere. And if this remote thing keeps going, like Salo's saying, then I think it creates a perfect atmosphere for companies to lower their overhead, while also potentially providing, intermittent office spaces or little like bonuses to their employees.
Bonus, free food. Either way, they still pay a lot of money. So I'll take whatever they have to give me. The wisest of fools, that's what they called me in high school, says, in my experience, most large companies reduce pay for folks working outside of high cost living areas. What? I don't think that that's right. It can't be. Joy Co says Miami is the new hotspot for many techies, believe it or not. Not a bad option. I like what you did there again, Joy. Hotspot Miami. I see it. Moving on to our next story. By the way, that's what it could look like in the Z workspace. Our next story, Jack reacts. So we all know what happened over the past weekend. A lot of stuff, a lot of things that are relevant to tech. But what I haven't heard reported, and of course here on Tech Topical, Tech's Best Talking Show, we try to bring you the tech news that no one else is talking about and offer perspectives that have not yet been heard. And we are going to hear Jack's reaction to all this because he had a Twitter thread. He posted some tweets. We're going to see, let's dive into here and see if we can maybe decipher a little bit of this. And I'm going to read most of the tweets, not all of them, but I'm going to read most of them. It'll give you the picture of it. So Jack took to Twitter this past couple of days. I think it was 3 days ago. So this is very new. Breaking news. Very exciting. Get your friends in here. They're going to love this. Okay, here we go. Twitter, Jack writes, is funding a small independent team of up to 5 open source architects, engineers, and designers to develop an open and decentralized standard for social media. The goal is for Twitter to ultimately be a client of this standard. And I think that's a thing of yarn. Not sure what that emoji is. All right. Twitter was so open early on, Jack continues, that many saw its potential to be a decentralized internet standard like SMTP, email protocol. For a variety of reasons, all reasonable at the time, we took a different path and increasingly centralized Twitter. But a lot's changed over the years. First, we're facing entirely new challenges. Centralized solutions are struggling to meet. For instance, Centralized enforcement of global policy to address abuse and misleading information is unlikely to scale over the long term without placing far too much burden on people. Second, the value of social media is shifting away from content hosting and removal and towards recommendation algorithms, directing one's attention. Unfortunately, these algorithms are typically proprietary and one can't choose or build alternatives. Yet, third, existing social media incentives frequently lead to attention being focused on content and conversation that sparks controversy and outrage, rather than conversation which informs and promotes health, like Topical. Square is doing exactly this for Bitcoin with Square Crypto. For social media, we'd like this team to either find an existing decentralized standard they can help move forward, or failing that, create one from scratch. That's the only direction we at Twitter Incorporated will provide. I like how he put incorporated. Why is this good for Twitter? That's what we're all wanting to know. How is this good for Twitter? It allows us to access and contribute to a much larger corpus of public conversation, focus our efforts on building open recommendation algorithms which promote healthy conversation, and will force us to be far more innovative than in the past. There are many challenges to make this work that Twitter would feel right becoming a client of this standard, which is why the work must be done transparently in the open, not owned by any single private corporation, furthering the open and decentralized principles of the internet. We'd expect this team not only, it's almost over, I promise. We'd expect this team not only to develop a decentralized standard for social media, but to also build open community around it, inclusive of companies and organizations, researchers, civil society leaders, all who are thinking deeply about the consequences, positive and negative. It's not going to happen overnight. It will take many years to develop a sound, scalable, and usable decentralized standard for social media that paves the path to solving the challenges listed above. Our commitment is to fund this work to that point and beyond. We're calling this team Blue Sky. Our CTO, Parage, will be running point to find a lead, who will then hire and direct the rest of the team. Please follow or DM Blue Sky if you're interested in learning more or joining. Now, when I read this, Starlight, when I read this, I thought, oh, wow, this Blue Sky, Jack is co-signing it. This must be a legit company that I've never heard of. And I thought, well, let's go over to Blue Sky and see what their Twitter is like. And you go to Blue Sky, and this is the background. And that banner image, I think, says it all, because that's my reaction to seeing their banner image, which I think is funny. Their profile picture is a blue sky with a bird in it. So that does make sense. And I was wondering, what is their reaction to Jack's Twitter foray?
Yeah, well, Jack's really doing the most to try to make a PR move right here. And I would like to believe Jack, but being a little skeptical, I'd be interested to see how the open and decentralized platform actually scales out and becomes real.
What was so funny is that I would have liked to hear more about that as well, but the only reaction to this thing that Jack said was LO. I don't know what that's supposed to. Is that, Starlight, is that hacker term for something? Should I know what that is? IO? 10 maybe?
It means
low.
on off.
Is that what it I'm hearing someone in the pie in the sky, the producer in my ear is telling me that this is someone raising their hand, perhaps.
Do you have God in your ear?
Yeah, pretty much. It's it's what happens when you become the host of something. You get voices start talking to you.
Be careful about that.
Yeah. So, Salo, what do you think about this whole decentralized internet? Is that what we're really looking for? Is that something that you're interested in? Does this solve all of our problems?
I dig it. I've always liked the idea behind decentralized platforms. You know, at a high level, it looks really cool. Then when you factor in that, you know, the problem with decentralization, which is the good part about it, is that nobody can control it. But, you know, having a highly accessible, open, decentralized platform can potentially lead to many, many, many wrongful things, you know, a lot of illicit activities that nobody can really take down. But, you know, believing in the good of humankind a decentralized platform that does not tolerate this sort of content will be really good, because it permits a lot of true information to be posted that couldn't otherwise be posted on said platforms, perhaps because of the companies themselves don't want to get in trouble with certain people or other companies, or even within themselves, right? So it's a very double-edged sword.
I'm a little bit confused, Starlight, and then I'll go to you, Jeremiah. Starlight, I'm just a host of a talking show. I don't actually know anything. What does decentralized mean? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so
Explain it like as
decentralized.
if I didn't know.
So, okay. So, if you didn't know anything, if you're a little kid,
Yes.
say you're going to write a note, okay? And I'm the teacher of a class, and I ask everyone, including you, to write a note and to put it in this jar, okay?
Okay.
So now I hold this jar of notes, and I can open the jar and read everyone's notes. And assuming they put a name on it, like an IP address, like they're able to reveal their IP address, and it's not through an onion router or a VPN, then I can also see who wrote the note. So decentralized would be like if I, as the teacher, appointed maybe 3 people in the class or more to hold the notes. And by them holding the notes, or even in a better example, holding pieces of the notes, then no one person of the 3 that I assigned to hold those notes can see the whole note or can see all the notes.
I see. So because these 3 people, they all control it, in a sense, no one is in complete charge. So one of the students can't take that note out of the jar, for instance. My note that I put in there. Is that right?
Yeah, basically.
Jeremiah, what do you think about that? Does that make sense to you?
It sort of does, and I think the cool part about it is that how like the controversy generates clicks, which generates money, and the people in control are what decide what they want everyone to see. And this decentralized idea is awesome because there's nobody sitting behind the curtain that's making bank off of this. It's we're all actually just openly sharing ideas and opinions, and I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, that is a cool idea. I kind of like that. But Salo, I'm confused. How is a decentralized internet going to stop, let's say, a troll like me going on and just harassing the internet? Is there anything that can happen to me, or am I good to go?
That's the thing. Depending on the type of decentralization, nothing can really stop it. And that's what I'm telling you. It's a double-edged sword, because, these sorts of things could happen. But at the same time, we're avoiding exactly what Jeremiah said. We're avoiding the spread of controversial, socially harming content to be spread, because there's no algorithm that pushes that, right? So the positive thing about having it be decentralized is that everybody's equal. It gives equality and equity across everyone. So you can truly only see that content which you are interested in, and you're not polluted constantly with all this negative news or all this controversial things that inevitably influence humans, right? If you're seeing negative things, bad news, or maybe violent things, you're going to slowly become a more negative, more violent person. Likewise, if you do it with positive things. Problem being that negative news spread, I don't remember exactly how much more, but it spread something like 10 times more than positive, right? Which is what's going on right now. Whereas if we went decentralized, it would be equal. It'd be 1-to-1. But people could troll or, do bad things, and nobody would be able to stop them.
Just like that one saying, the lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to put its pants on. Going to the chat, Joyco says, is this going to be built in-house or open source? To which the only thing I can say to you is low, IO. or raise hand. I don't know. There's very little details on what exactly is going on, and it's not entirely quite clear. But I do think that that is a very interesting point, Starlight, because one of the things that happened over the weekend was Parler, arguably Twitter's biggest competitor, they got taken off the internet entirely. Amazon said, we're not giving you web services anymore. And so Jack and Twitter just saw their biggest competitor go under. And it almost seems like, Starlight, that Jack's like, okay, we should probably have like some competition. Like, even though that's kind of good news for us, like it's probably not good that we're the only game in town. Do you think that's sort of the is that the vibe you get too, Starlight?
Yeah, I could see that. I think it's definitely a defensive move that appears a bit offensive. I mean, in the sense of like, they don't want to necessarily rely on, say, Amazon for hosting their web servers. I mean, a number of companies, Netflix, Uber, Coinbase, I believe, might even are all run on like Amazon web servers. So, you know, in a sense, it's you know, even though you see Twitter as a big company, it's only like a handful of companies that really can like have the power to shut you down, in the sense that we saw with Parler.
Yeah, that's the interesting part of it, Jeremiah, is that it seems like you have to be on Amazon, right? Or you have to be with Microsoft. And I don't know how I think about it, because I think about Tech Topical. Like, what if Amazon said you can't have any more Tech Topical? I wouldn't be very happy about that. Do you think Amazon and Twitter should have that call, Jeremiah?
I mean, that's a really tough question, because at the end of the day, somebody has to make the call. You get what I'm saying? Like, I mean, who gets to determine who gets to make those calls? Everybody's influenced and biased by something, and somebody's got to be at the top, if not, you know, a group of people who are then influenced by other people, mostly driven by money. So, I mean, like, that's the structure of everything. And how to make that a more fair and even call for everybody, I have no idea where we would even start to go about that.
I actually have an interesting thought about this, Jeremiah and Brian and everybody that's watching. So I've been a big crypto fan since, I don't know, 2012, when I first heard about Bitcoin. And more on the recent years, there was a solution that came out, a decentralized storage server solution that came out with a coin. I can't quite remember the name, but the whole idea was that you could host servers, right? And you'd get paid in this coin. And so the information, say I wanted to upload a picture, right? Instead of having it on Dropbox or Google Drive, I wanted to put my picture on this server platform thing. It would get cut up into 10 different parts, just as Starlight was explaining. And then it would be sent over to 10 different people. Each would have a tiny little encrypted part. And then I would have to pay them in this coin, and they would receive a part of this coin to, you know, host my picture, to have it on their servers. And this coin, I thought it had a lot of potential, because the idea of having decentralized hosting specifically would combat situations such as the one Parler's facing right now, where, you know, their main host decided to take them down and now they're down for good. Whereas if there were decentralized hosting solutions that were more consumer friendly and available to all, and I mean, I hope they have better uptime, it would be, you know, it would solve the whole problem of what if your main provider decides to shut you down, because then there would be no main provider.
I love that idea. And then if it's decentralized and I upload it, then you can't take it down no matter what, right?
Exactly. Unless the entire network gets shut down, but that's an unlikely case.
Interesting. Very interesting. Someone in the chat says 100% I agree with Salo. Wow, 100%. Peer-to-peer technology like this would help make adoption of extremist ideology more seamless. A double-edged sword. And that is very interesting, because like you said with the pictures, what if I went to upload like something that probably shouldn't be online, like a naughty picture that maybe should not be online? once it's online and it's decentralized, there's kind of no going back, right? Salo, is that correct?
Exactly. I mean, technically, if you put your own thing, since you are the host, you can take it down and it should delete from all of the servers. Also, all of them host only a 10th of the picture. So you actually need to pull from all 10 at the same time to be able to retrieve the whole image. But say if I posted a picture of you online, that should never be done, there would be absolutely no way for you to take that down. Whereas right now with the current social platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you can do something about it.
I'm not sure, but I think I just got blackmailed, Starlight. I wanted to ask you because I'm really curious about your thoughts on this. I know we talk a lot about this, but what do you think about this marriage between free speech and private companies that are able to take things down? You know, because the full-blooded capitalist in me thinks that, oh, if you have a company, you should be able to do whatever you want. Just leave it up, take it down. It's your company, man, whatever you want to do. And then on the other hand, I don't know. I don't really want the companies being able to tell me what I can and can't say, whether I'm saying anything bad or not. I don't know. Just the idea is kind of weird for me. What do you think about that, Starlight? How do you, how should we be thinking about this even?
Sure. I think there's two important points to define in this situation. One is that just because it's decentralized doesn't mean there can't be checks and balances in place. So for example, if in the open source code, there's some algorithm that determines if a picture has nudity in it, and then you can't upload nudity onto the social media platform. So therefore, then you can't post those types of pictures on there. There still can be checks and balances to the content that goes up on there. So the part of it being open source would be the contributors of the code base would sort of determine what those rules are. And I think the second point is that people criticize Bitcoin a lot for being this pseudo-anonymous form of currency, which people use to buy illegal drugs or guns or things like that. But these types of things were being facilitated before Bitcoin was even around. And I think it's important to be aware of the things, of the negative aspects of these technologies, but it's also important to inform the public of the positives of these technologies, because like Salo said, there's 10 bad stories for every one positive story. So in a sense, we as stewards of technology should make the public aware that although these technologies can do bad, they're mostly a tool and they can be used for both good and evil.
Mostly a tool that can be used for good or evil. Jeremiah, I think that kind of makes sense to me, but I'm not sure, Jeremiah. What do you think about all this? What's your reaction?
I mean, I really like what Starlight just had to say there. I mean, we could, just like society's been for the past couple months, focus completely on the negative, but I mean, there are positives to be had and to be utilized. And I think if something like a decentralized platform was to come to fruition, I mean, we would see a lot of good. I would hope, especially from all the contributors that want to see a more positive environment. And I mean, I honestly don't think I know enough about the topic to get too in depth, but I mean, I'd like to consider myself an optimist. And I think, I mean, from where we are now, nothing could be more negative than where we're at now, I think. So, I mean, any change towards a positive outlook, I'm down for it.
Make sure you knock on some wood there, Jeremiah. You just never know. Yeah, I think that's ultimately where I found myself, is that it's really tough to figure out a way forward. But it seems like to me, Salo, that what's that Benjamin Franklin quote? If you're willing to trade liberty for security, then you don't deserve either one of them. Now, I don't know how far that, I don't know about that, but you know, you got to have some sort of both. And as much as I would love to be on a positive and you know, highly curated, we'll call it internet, I do kind of like the freedom and the Wild West aspect to the internet. Don't you like that too, Sala?
I do. I definitely do. And touching back on what you said about freedom of speech, I believe, and I may be completely wrong, but if I recall correctly, the Constitution protects speech as long as it does not incite violence or harm other people. So if we literally base the entire or the algorithm that could, you know, the checks and balances that Starlight was talking about solely on what the Constitution, which is a sort of universally agreed upon concept, I don't think there'd be any harm, you know? I mean, because if you have a platform that is decentralized and the only rule is you can't, you know, incite violence or cause harm to others, I don't think anything bad can come of it. I think that it is a freedom worth risking a little security for.
That's really a good point. Starlight in the chat, Joy Code says 100% Starlight. A positive of that is that a decentralized social media world would allow more communities to have a voice. So there's an equity issue there as well, which I think is really exciting. But I'm glad you brought up the Constitution, Salo. And Starlight, I wanted to bring up this point to you because I thought of this all by myself the other day. And that, you know, the Constitution talks about freedom of speech, and that is seemingly meaning towards like the government can't tell me what to say and what not to say, but a private company, the Constitution doesn't really address that, is I think. So I don't know. It seems like we kind of have the freedom to maybe write our own rules, but when the government, the whole point of, at least to me, tell me if I'm wrong, of the government not being able to restrict speech is because back in those days, maybe the government was the only one that could restrict speech in any sort of real way. But now that private companies have such a big, I hate to say the word monopoly, even though it is my favorite game, even though these big tech companies have such an impact and such influence over the conversation, they seem to have more ability to censor and to I hate to say thought police, even though 1984 is my favorite book. I hate to see that sort of that paradigm shift of instead of the government is censoring people, now it's corporations doing that. And should we have some protections there against corporations for free speech? Or
Sure, there's two different aspects to this topic. So one of them is the legal aspect, and the other one is the ethical aspect. So the legal aspect of it is that the right to freedom of speech is through the government. And you're correct. And was made at a time when the government was the central source of power. And now we're seeing social media have sort of a dominating sense of control in certain areas. I will say that, in my opinion, I do believe the government still has the upper hand, despite what, you know, news articles may have you think. But it is a solid chunk of the internet that a handful of companies hold. So with this, in a legal sense, the First Amendment really doesn't apply to them. But then you get into the ethical sense, and it's like, do these companies that dominate a large space of the internet, which is now with COVID, the almost dominant space, the dominant space for social interaction, do they have the ethical right to censor and do these types of things? And that's when it gets a little tricky, because in a sense, my first instinct is to put like rules or regulations that these companies can't do these things. But I think that initial approach would be the wrong approach, in the sense of more rules and regulations on companies would only hurt smaller companies coming up, and the bigger companies would figure out their way around them. The same way as in, we don't have a law to tell us not to put our hand over a hot fire. We as humans just know that. We've been taught that. We don't need a law to tell us that. So these types of things that lend to a bigger topic of ethics and morals are things that not necessarily should be laws or should be implemented in a government form, but they're things that need to be addressed. And I think with the aspects of decentralization, as Joy said in the comments, it provides more of a spread of who's in control, and it allows more people to be the ethical and moral conscience.
I believe that's beautifully well put. Jeremiah, I'll let you have the last word on this topic. In the chat, the wisest of fools says, some folks say that you have the right to speak, but you don't have the right to a platform. I think that's what's happened with Parler. Is that what you would say, Jeremiah? Is that how you would put it?
Yeah, I was reading that in the chat, and I think that's well put. I would just really like to hope that even when these companies get really big and they have a huge influence on such a big number of people, that, you know, they would try to influence the good as opposed to what's going to get them more clicks and money. So, I mean, like Starlight's point about the ethical portion of it, like we shouldn't have to write a law to have people do the right thing. And I agree with that 100%. I mean, I just think we need just have a little bit more faith in each other to do the right thing, even when we're making gobs of freaking money. I think that would be my last word on it.
Jeremiah, he's just too pure for this world. I think that wraps it up. If someone else has any more thoughts and considerations to put in the chat, now is your time, and I'll get back to it. But yeah, I think that we got to the bottom of that, Salo. That's why we're the best tech talking show. For our last story, it's crazy what people can create when they're in quarantine. A new game developer has taken the internet by viral storm by creating the 2020 in review game. And I think we're going to play it right here live on stream. And this will be our way, panel, to sort of recap about 2020. We didn't do that last time. Can you believe it? So let me go ahead and I'm just going to go right here to the game. And then if my voice in my head can tell me if it's working all right. Okay, voice in the head says we're good. So can you hear it? Voice in the head? Okay, so here we go. We're in 2019, everything's beautiful. I love this, I love the graphics. Here's Australia. This is what Australia looks like, by the way. They have rocks and trees like this. Uh-oh.
It's such a crazy year. I don't know if y'all recall that it started with Australia catching fire. You know, sadly, lots of burned land and animals and houses.
To save the koala. We saved the koala, everyone. That's all right. Okay, COVID-19.
We left the koala.
Oh, he's fine. He's going to hang out with the bat.
Thankfully,
what's this? Should I collect this?
Oh, yeah.
Don't walk into the COVID. You're going to die.
Oh, I just got COVID. Oh man, get out of the way, everyone. Okay. Yeah, no, this is exactly what it was like at the supermarket. Get some bananas, bread, toilet paper.
Oh yeah, get all of that.
Okay, now I'm ready for quarantine. I don't think I have to pay, right? Not anymore. All right, dodge the COVID. Gym's closed. Restaurant closed.
It's all right. We're running. We're getting our workout.
Yeah, we're probably in San Francisco. Oh, no, stock market's crashing.
This was the Black Monday or Black Tuesday. I don't remember quite.
I remember this too. I remember because I was buying puts and then, we're in quarantine now. Yeah, I was buying puts and then on the day right before the big rebound, I had loaded all in thinking it was going to go down. So I lost a bunch of money while the market went up. Very sad times. Quarantine's over. All right, let's go. That was cool. Lockdowns clear nature. Well, that's good.
I'm glad that
Dolphins.
Despite 2020 being objectively quite a bad year overall for everyone, people are still able to, make this type of thing so we can all, cope with it a little bit better.
This is why I love humanity so much. Look at this. I think when you start laughing in the face of, I died. Okay. I don't want to restart over from the checkpoint. Okay, well, I think at the very end they were going to tell me to stay safe and then we're good. Did I get COVID twice and then?
You might have gotten it a few times.
I got it a few times.
Yeah, they were power-ups though.
Oh, they were. Let's see here. What's the chat say? Chat says, John. That's wonderful. Oh, Jonathan's here. Jonathan's in the chat. He says, hey. Joyco says, trading options during a pandemic must have been a roller coaster, Brian. Yeah, you're telling me. Shout out to the Tesla gang. Yeah, if you're making Tesla. Oh, I can restart the checkpoint. Oh, big shout out to the designer of the game. What? I don't have to start from the beginning.
If you're looking at these clouds, it's exactly how my online classes were looking up in the beginning of the...
Very good. Very good to include that. Keep going. Oh no, not the 5G. It's spreading COVID everywhere. All right, how do I get through this? Okay.
That's the problem we're facing now, Brian. Can't you see that now we're all just so surrounded by 5G that we're getting COVID chucked in our head?
Oh man, I love that. Let's... I mean, you gotta hand it to him. This is a really good game. Oh no, we're racing Trump and Biden. Look how fast they go. Should we wave with everyone? No, okay. Dodge the COVID. Oh, now the vaccine's out. See, it gets better. That's what we're waiting for this year. And I also have the same sort of a, let me get rid of all this. Okay, now we're good. I think we won. All right, we did it. The 2020 game. I'm sure 2021 will be much better. Okay, zombies, of course. We gotta look out for the zombies. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, that was interesting. Jeremiah, can you wrap up 2020 for me? Is that how you thought it went?
So I can't speak for anybody else's experience, that's for sure. And the beginning of 2020 was rough, right? You know, because I was working and, you know, with the whole furlough and then trying to figure out everything with working remotely and all that good stuff, whatever. I can just say personally, you know, I'm going on some new adventures halfway through 2020, went to May school, met a lot of freaking awesome people. So, I mean, I'm more than grateful to have experienced everything because, I mean, with the bad comes the good, you know, with the dark comes the light. So I think at the end of 2020, I'm grateful for the choices I've made. I mean, it sucks that a lot of bad stuff happened, but I mean, I think we all, at the end of the day, have to take a look at what we have and, you know, who's around us and, you know, just enjoy each other, I think.
That's right. It's all about perspective. And Sala, what do you... Sorry, the voice in my head threw me off. Sala, Jeremiah's right. It was a tough year, but it wasn't all that bad, was it?
I mean, thankfully, you know, again, same as Jeremiah. I'm glad I came to Make School. I met all of you awesome people. You know, we're hosting Tech Topical. That started in 2020, so that's a great thing, right?
That's right. The best Tech Talking show.
If there's something to be learned is that, you know, we can't always plan 100% for the future. We need to learn to be flexible. We also learned that we are a lot more adaptable than we previously thought. You know, who could have ever guessed that the entire education system and the entire workforce would flip like this to make, you know, online things be, you know, everything is online now, right? And we're all the time evolving and constantly growing and adapting. So I think we learned a lot overall. And of course, you know, it's been a very hard year for a lot of people, but I think it's a year where the entirety of humanity grew overall. And I think, you know, at some point we're going to look and hit down in history and we're going to be like, yeah, you know, 2020 was a very hard year. It was very hard for everybody. But, you know, tensions maybe went a little bit lower. People learned to be happier with what they have, appreciate more, you know, not taking things for granted. So I think in the large scale, it's gonna, you know, we're gonna look back and we're gonna be, of course, sad that it happened, but also relieved in a sense that we were able to push through that as humanity.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. Starlight, what are you gonna, I like that point you said, Sala, about the next generation. And Starlight, I'm curious, what are you gonna tell the next generation? What are you going to tell your kids? Or if you don't have kids, maybe you can be like the fun uncle. I feel like you'd be a great fun uncle, by the way. But what are you going to tell the next generation about 2020 when they're learning about it in school?
Yeah, I'll probably shake my fist and be like, "Oh boy, you kids have it way too easy these days."
Back in my day.
Back in my day. No, I'll tell them, I'll tell them a little story about a dog who who's a really good dog. And as I was making my dinner, this dog stood by my side waiting to get a bite. So I went into the bathroom while the dinner was finishing up, came out, the food was gone. And the plate was all over the floor. The dog ended up throwing it up. He didn't really like that. But then he got second.
Yeah, I think that would clear it up for them. But yeah, overall, I would have to give 2020. I'm with you, Jeremiah. 20 out of 20. I think it's been fantastic. Even the bad stuff has led to some great things, so that it all kind of equals out over time. I'm trying to be optimistic like you, Jeremiah. Going over to the chat. People loved your metaphor, Starlight. See here, Jonathan 8170. He's known as Johnny Dubs, where he's from. He says, Brian's my favorite character. Oh, thank you, Jonathan. Yin with a bunch of hearts. There's 3 hearts, so I think those hearts go to all you 3. So you can have those hearts. Make School. Did someone say the best tech talking show? I think so. I think they were talking about Tech Topical, the best tech talking show. Jonathan has a raccoon emoji, it looks like, as a reaction, then a dog. Joy Codes says, yes, 2020 has shown me how fast life can change. Take risk, get out of your comfort zone. Also, shout out to all the scientists and engineers innovating in 2020. And it's Scoopy. I wonder who that is. Says, preach, breaking out of the comfort zone. Best thing I did in 2020. I guess let's sum it up with that. 2020, the year of new things happening. Last word here, Salo. What's something you did out of your comfort zone this year? Inspire me.
I started learning how to play a new instrument.
Really? What instrument?
The violin. I always thought that to play the violin, you had to be like 3 years old and learn that since, before you were born.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
19 was too old to learn violin, but,
Way
I
too old.
stepped out of my comfort zone and I started learning how to play the violin at 19.
A real virtuoso. Starlight, what do you think? How'd you get out of your comfort zone?
Oh man, sometimes I just say things and I don't really know where they're going, and I kind of just follow them, So I guess that's kind of how I ended up here, and I think that's kind of how I ended up in a lot of situations in 2020, and I think that's how 2020 ended up, It kind of just 2020 just started talking, and it didn't know where it was going to end up. It kind of got better, it kind of got worse, kind of got better again, kind of got worse, and then it was just over.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. If you keep talking, who knows? Someone might give you a show or something on the internet. Jeremiah, how'd you get out of your comfort zone? I know you did something.
Man, I quit a pretty secure and steady job to try to go back to school to pursue what I like to do. And so as scary as that was, having that take place in 2020, holy buckets. But I'm alive, I'm healthy, I got sweet friends and sweet talk show hosts that I can talk to. So it's overall, that's awesome and glad I did it.
That's right. I agree. Quit your job and into the next thing. I'm 100% with you, Jeremiah. And then someone is in the chat, not in that chat, different chat. They're saying they don't believe that you can say Tech Topical, the best tech talking show. They think it's a tongue twister. I don't think it's a tongue twister. So let's do a little bit of promo. Sometimes I like to do this at the end of the show. So maybe we can clip these and put it in. Can you, real quick, we'll go right through the order. We'll go Salo, Starlight, Jeremiah. Salo, give it to me. Tech Topical, the best tech talking show.
And you're putting me at a disadvantage. English is not my first language, but I'll do it anyways.
Say it in Spanish.
Tech Topical, the best tech talking show. If you guys are able to do that in your first shot, put it up on TikTok, share with all your friends, have everybody say yes.
That's exactly right. Starlight. Let's see it.
Tech Topical, the best tech talking show.
See, it's not that hard, Jeremiah. You got it.
Oh, if you know the theme song, Tech Topical, the best tech talking show.
Oh, that's right. Tech Topical, the best tech topic show. Tech Topical. What's the topic show? Talking Tech Topic Show. Thank you very much, everyone. That is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed. We will be back at the same time next week. Let's go ahead and hear that song real quick. Here it is. There it is. So next week we're going to be I'm going to try and get some great guests for you. We have some really exciting guests coming up. We have Jesse Kurtz coming on at some point. But next week, I would like to thank all of our panelists, Jeremiah Leary, Starlight Romero, and Salo Cohen. Thank you again so much for coming on. Make sure you're mashing that follow button if you haven't yet already. Hit the subscribe button and give us a bunch of money because we like money. It's going to go to the STAR program. It doesn't go to me, unfortunately. But the STAR program, I guess that's all right. And follow us on YouTube and join the Discord if someone wants to put the Discord in the link. And we'll all hang out again next week. Thank you all again so much, everyone. I will see you next time.